up, get out right out of your bed, that's your quicksand. Getting rid anxiety and head, you can fix it. Rid of stigmas, all of them you said, we ain't listening. Just remember, try to do your best, you can win this. Maurice Benard, State of Mind.
All right, State of Mind. Here we are Sunday once again with someone very special. Listen, I'm tired of hearing about my black dyed hair. And I'm going to say this. I want to say this right now. Just because, you know, I don't know if you guys believe me or not. I want it gray. The powers that be want it black. So there's not a whole lot I could say unless you know, you try to pick your battles. And this, my hair being black is not one of them. So enjoy it. Oh my God! All right, who do I have today? This is another actor who I looked at his credits, and then there's so many that I just gave up because I'm not going to say everything he's done because he's done a ton. But he did 24. Great show. Jane the Virgin. I don't really know about that show, but it says Virgin, so that's why I put it down there because it might be interesting. And but you may know him as well. Let me just tell you who it is first. Carlo Rotta, and the character he plays is Carlo, who is a. Let me tell you why he's interesting. Well, first of all, let me tell you that a lot of people, before I met him, said he's a great guy, he's a great actor, all this stuff. I said, yeah. And then I checked it out, and he's great because he's a bad guy, but he looks like a good guy to me. How you doing, buddy?
I'm very well. I'm very, very well. Very happy to be here. And also very happy to be in the company of your extraordinarily luscious dark hair.
Hey, if I could shave my head, I'd love to have it shaved.
You know, the idea of having a problem because you have, you want gray, they want black.
Yeah.
Listen, I wake up with a problem every day. I don't have a choice.
But but because you have to shave it, you have to.
I cut it. Yeah, I don't.
But you like it bald, right?
Yeah, right at this point, I've sometimes been wigged.
Yeah.
It's just weird. I mean, one of the nice things about being wigged is that you then feel like a breeze in your hair, which of course I don't.
Right.
And but yeah, this is a look I've had for God.
How long?
A long time.
Really?
Yeah. I don't actually shave it. I have a little micro shave cutter that cuts it really, really, really short.
Really?
So, yeah, so I don't take a blade to it, but it's really, really short.
But how easy is it to just get out of bed and not even...
Well, I mean, I'm up and out, right?
Yeah.
I'm up and out.
That's amazing.
When I have to prepare myself for a self-tape, it takes me about, on a bad day, it would take me about 60 seconds, right? Obviously, some people in my household, my lovely wife, for example, takes her just a little bit longer till she's ready. But, you know, she has more to do.
Yes, I get you. Now, your lovely wife, Nazneen Contractor, was sitting somewhere in this room.
Yeah.
And you said something I think is beautiful. You looked at her and you said, you know, sometimes I looked over, I see my wife, and I'm like, wow, she's beautiful.
It's true.
I mean,
I know sometimes I'm like this. I'm like, all right, that's my wife. God, she's
but you're beautiful too, Carla. Let's not fool anybody.
In certain ways, maybe. In certain ways.
So,
but yes, and as I think mentioned to you once before, you know, sometimes some people will go, wait, that's your wife? Wait, you married? She married you?
That's it.
She's beautiful, man. I'm like, yeah, thanks. But like, she's really like, okay, I get it. She's beautiful. All right.
So you were born in London, England.
I was born in London, yeah, in the UK.
How was that?
It was great. You know, I was born in Soho in London. At the time, I was born in that little sort of ghetto-y area of London, because that's what it was back then. You were either Jewish, Italian, or a prostitute
Really?
in that area. Yeah. Some might argue that certain members of my family were all three.
Right.
But yeah, it was a beautiful little enclave of sort of, you know, we were immigrants and very, very, very blue collar. The apartment that we had, my parents had, was on the fourth floor of this building, which is still there. It's 37 Great Pulteney Street. And we were on the top floor, and there was no bathroom.
Wow.
There was one toilet for the whole building. It was 2 floors down, and eventually my parents put a bath in the kitchen.
Damn.
So yeah, which of course left me with the fact that there was no bathroom. That left me with a toilet phobia, and that lasted until I was approximately, I don't know, 53 years old.
Wow.
Maybe not
Yeah,
that
I
late.
get it. Yeah.
Not that late. But anyway, yeah, it was a very, like, of course, like who knew that we didn't have much, right? It was just, there was a lot of love in the household.
When you're young, you don't know, right?
No, it's not at all. And on top of that, you know, that area of London, you know, we kids, we used to play on the streets with the other kids. No one knew that we were like in a poor, sort of, quote unquote, situation. My parents were very loving. My dad worked very hard.
Brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I've got 2 sisters and a younger brother, 2 older sisters and a younger brother. And yeah, it was beautiful in many ways, great memories. It's only then when we moved out, and then when my father's career started to take off, and, you know, he was able to buy a house, and then he started traveling all over he basically worked all over the world, and he brought his family with him. My dad was a chef and would go and open hotels and things. And it's only then that you realize, wow, we didn't have much back then.
So where did you guys go? Well, first of all, London, because I don't know anything about London. Isn't that where the Beatles are? Or where are the Beatles?
Liverpool. They're Liverpool, yeah.
I know.
London, you know, what can I tell you? At the time, there was just a lot of Italian immigrants there. And my parents being Italian immigrants. And so, but then we...
Have you gone back?
Yeah, I've been back many times to London. I mean, you know, eventually all the relatives that we had in England kind of left, or unfortunately, you know, passed away. And you know, there's still a few friends. I don't go back to England that much, to tell you the truth. You know, my mother was, unfortunately, we lost her last year. My mother was in Italy, and I'd go to Italy a lot. We'd go to Italy a lot, family-wise.
My son and my wife just went to Europe. They love it, Italy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Italy is just a beautiful, beautiful place that is unfortunately slowly turning into like a museum.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, there's a population. There's no population growth there, and so a lot of these little villages where my father was from, for example, they just get smaller and smaller and older, right? And very few children. I don't know what happened in Italy. People stopped having kids, which is sort of antithetical to what one
Really?
might
But how does that happen? They stop
I think it's because it's the same reason it happens in other developed nations like Japan, where people become wealthier. You know, it's kind of ironic.
Is it just a man saying, I don't want to have kids?
No, it's because people become wealthier, and then their lifestyles don't aren't conducive to it. And, you know, it's a problem in Japan. It's a problem in various countries, developed countries. And but Italy particularly, I think, has the lowest birth rate
Dang.
of all those Western.
And you moved to Hong Kong.
So So I lived all my teen years in Hong Kong.
How was Hong Kong?
Oh, that was amazing.
Like, why? The food and stuff?
Everything, the colors, the aromas, the life that we had there. We lived a very privileged expatriate life out there, where my father's working for a company in Hong Kong, being paid a fair amount of money, and
Right.
everything's taken care of. You know, the apartments, schools, everything's taken care of. It was a beautiful lifestyle. We would on the weekends we would go camping on Lantau, which is now completely built up. But it was just a lovely way of spending your teen years. Exotic. And
For me, Hong Kong is like all that food on the street.
yeah, it's like
And-
there's so much life there. There's so much.
Now, what's the difference? Because my family's going to go to Japan, and I'm not sure if I'm going, but what's the difference between Hong Kong and Japan? I don't know if you've been to Japan.
I've only been briefly to Japan. I don't know it enough, but there's a massive difference.
Yeah.
You know, we've been planning to go to Japan now for a bunch of years, and we're going to have to pull it off at some point. We're going to have to pull it off because I really want to go there.
They say it's beautiful,
Yeah,
right?
I think beautiful. Also, just the whole aesthetic, the whole Japanese aesthetic,
Yeah.
is so enticing. Mm-hmm. They are the design center of the universe, if you like. Everything is so beautifully designed there,
Right.
right? And a lot of minimalist experience you get there. Love to go. Just it's a question of time, right? And also we have young kids, so it's not always
You have
conducive.
2 kids?
Yeah, we have a 7-year-old and a 13-year-old. They're just about to turn 7 and 13, just the day before Christmas and the day after Christmas.
Really?
So we have our daughter, our son, who turns 13 on the 24th, and then our daughter turns 7 on the 26th, and then Jesus Christ, of course, in between, sandwiched, between our 2 kids. You know, we don't sing carols, Christmas carols. We just sing happy birthday to everyone.
That's good. Oh, man. So let me ask you, what about any experience with mental health, since this is a mental health show?
Yes, so I'm actually fascinated by the fact that this is a mental health show.
Yeah.
In my many diatribes that I have over the years, replicated, where people are like, "Oh God, he's talking about that again." I've often said that this craft that we pursue is your responsibility, and your main work is to stay mentally healthy,
Yeah.
because the work itself can either throw you down when obviously you may be rejected, or you may not achieve what you want to achieve, or even when you are working, you may get some negative effects from it, or build you up to the point where you are flying when you're working, like flying, leaving the planet. Then when you go home, real life can seem tawdry,
Yeah.
right? And it's a weird thing to explain to people
I get it.
who haven't experienced
Yeah.
that. Like the juice that you are given, and I say given because I honestly do think it's a gift.
I do too.
The juice you're given when you're actually performing, get little goosebumps just talking about it,
You're absolutely right.
is so intoxicating
Yeah.
that you basically chase that,
Yeah.
chase it and chase it, right? I mean, I remember my very first scene that I did when I first started acting. I was already 30. My very first lesson was with a LA guy who'd come up to Toronto. I was living in Toronto at the time, Michael Shurtleff, and he had a big class. And so he's, okay, do scenes, 2 people, go off, practice your scene, come back. It was my first time ever performing a scene, right? It was like, I did this scene in front of 68 people, right? It was like, can I swear?
You can swear, yeah.
It was like a fucking, in Italian we call it a colpo di fulmine, lightning strike,
Yeah.
right? A lightning strike. I just got so elevated by it that I said to myself, well, this is what I want to do. I got to go to this place. And, you know, I sometimes joke that I've actually been chasing that.
Oh, yeah.
Chasing that same, you know, same feeling for the last.
But you get it in different ways.
33 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but but getting back to the notion of mental health, when you are in this business particularly, I mean, I'm sure it happens in other businesses, but I just know this business, that it's your duty to guard your mental health to the point where you can exist as a normal person when you're not working,
Yeah.
right? And that is a challenge.
Yeah.
That is a challenge. It's a challenge for many reasons.
And a lot of the problem, I think, for me, is ego.
Yeah,
Okay?
ego's big.
The ego is what's, it's funny. I don't think I've ever talked about this. One time I had one of those anxiety attacks, panic attack, lasted about a week only, but it was kind of bad, not that bad. But I had a vision when it started happening. I had a vision that said to me, it's your fucking ego. And I went to everything that's happened in my life with mental health. And each thing had to do with ego.
And how do you think ego?
Well, it's like, I'll give it to you this way. I said to my agent, my ego, he goes, you don't have an ego. I said, here's my problem. I want to be king, and I'm happy to be king, but I don't want anybody else to be king.
Oh, okay. Right.
That pretty much answers that whole.
Right.
So a lot of my shit has to do with that. Now, I'm working on it, man. Working on it. And I think the more I work on that, the less anxiety I'll have. Because I started Sonny, the character, and they came to me a year into it saying, can we make Sonny bipolar?
Oh.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm a method actor. I'm going to be, I'm already bipolar. I'm going to be bipolar. It's all good. Well, now I'm 61 years old. And having played that for 31 yees, great for acting.
Right.
But my life is suffering,
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And there you go. And that's the
That's what we talked about earlier.
Right.
Where you could have you can use the chaos as an actor and the chaos inside your mind.
Yes.
And it works because the camera loves that shit.
Yes.
But in life, you better figure out how to fix that. Otherwise, you're going to end up with like I have.
Right. Well, I think that's the challenge.
That is the challenge.
That is the challenge, to try and find ways of whatever it takes. I mean, obviously, sometimes you can't do it by yourself. Sometimes you need professional help.
Of course.
Right.
I was just at my therapist right now. I got to talk to Carlo. This guy's,
But I find that certain things I do really do help me just achieve like a goal, like a short goal, like, so I like to cook, for example,
Oh yeah, you're a great cook.
right? I love to
Yeah.
to cook, and I feel like that actually
That is good.
helps.
Yeah.
That helps because there's a beginning, middle, and end to it. You're doing something productive. You're doing something creative, and at the end, there's a look what we have, and people enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
That can sometimes help. You know,
That is great.
family members, of course, absolutely help. You know, as you know, my wife and I, we're both in business, and so we often have to talk each other off the ledge. She normally is the one talking me off the ledge.
But you seem so cool.
Yeah, but I do have those times where I'm like, what the hell am I doing with my life? What's going on?
Really?
I'm just wasting my life, right?
Yeah.
It's just, as we were saying earlier, I just feel like, I'm sure it happens in other industries, but in our industry, because of the nature of it, you are so filled with vivacity,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
life sometimes.
Yeah.
It's too big.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
spills out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it feels great.
Yeah.
So that when that is not there, you're just left in a dark, dismal hole
I know.
that seems impossible to get out of. And you need someone,
Yeah.
at least I definitely need someone, to just calmly say to me, you think this is the end of the road? It's not the end of the road. This is like just a phase.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And you know what's funny with what you're saying, Carlo? I wrote a speech for this mental health thing, and at the end of it, I said the reason I'm doing this, and I wrote my book and stuff, is because there's so many people around the world who don't have anybody.
Right.
I mean, you've had your wife, I've had my whole family, my wife.
Yeah.
Can you imagine those people who don't have anyone?
I know.
They need something,
Yeah.
whether it be this that they can watch and go, well, if Sonny, or how they think, has gone through this, then it's normal for me.
Yes, absolutely.
Because when I went through my stuff when I was 21, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have social media.
You're right.
So I'm going, what is going on with me? Please tell me. Nobody could tell me for a while. If I had YouTube and this guy's gone through the same thing, and I already know.
Well, you know,
Oh, my
I
God.
think that as a society, we are not necessarily heading in the right direction because there's already, like, we're isolating ourselves more and more.
Yeah.
We're not having those temple experiences that we are actually, I think, prone to.
Yes.
And those temple experiences can be a bunch of things. They're not just a temple as in going to church or going to
I
a
understand.
temple.
I understand.
I'm talking about just going shopping, for example,
Yeah.
and brushing up against other people, speaking to other people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like people are like, we'll just order that.
Yeah.
It'll arrive.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And so we're isolating ourselves more and more. And I think that that's a problem for some people. Earlier, you were mentioning that in a particular incident that happened not that long ago, you were involved with prayer,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's another thing that seems to have just left us, this idea of the solace that you can get from prayer is something that now seems foreign to people,
Yeah.
right? And it's almost like enough people who have a voice, a voice that people want to listen to, without seeming preachy about it, because that's where it starts getting a problem. The reintroduction of just the notion of prayer is I think the key to for all of us as we go forward.
You know, Carlo, I got 3 more of these. I'm going to be dead by the end, I can tell you, because this is going so great. When I mean great, I mean I like these kind of talks. You know, I got to get into the, you know, where you were born and all that, but this is the kind of talks that I love.
Yeah.
When I started this, I was a little nervous talking about God, just because of the, you know, the way things are.
Yeah.
And then I started a little bit more, and now I talk about it all the time, and not one negative, which is great. Prayer, people ask, well, why, you know, God? I said, listen, life is hard enough. If I believe that God helps me through something, whether it be true or not, I believe it to be true, and it helps. What's wrong with that? Life is, man. Life will eat you up and spit you out.
Right.
So I talk about prayer like in God all the time now, and I love it, and I have no problem with that.
Right. Well, I mean, also the meditative aspect of prayer is invaluable.
Yeah.
You know, it takes you out of your head.
Yeah.
And I think we need that. You know, meditation is a proven balm for people.
Yeah.
Right. Prayer is meditation in many ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And for mental health,
mental health.
meditation
it's key, right?
is key. And if that's prayer too, then you might as well.
Right, right. I mean, you know, you have got such a long history with this.
Yes.
And it's so good that you're like open about it. It's great that you're open about it because I feel like that actually is a real help to people.
It is because of the nature of a lot of people. You know, I'm very visual, and a lot of people are visual. If you see something that can hit you and connect with, it's very. I will not stop. Listen, the truth of the matter is, I've said it before. During the pandemic, I was in, and I know people are like, enough with the pandemic. Just hang on, people. Let me just say this last thing. Thank you. But when I was about to do something I shouldn't have done, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got in the house. I was playing with my goats, and my goats usually give me. It wasn't working. Nothing was working. This is 4 months of hell. I go to inside the house, and I'm on my way to go to the front yard, and I prayed for a second. God, help me. Thought of my family. And then I thought of if I did something, everybody who watches this show will feel, not everybody, some people who watch this show would feel they would have the green light to do it also.
Right.
And I stopped.
Sure.
That whole thing stopped me. Oh, Carl, I didn't know we were going to get into all this shit. Fucking, let's get into something else real quick.
All right.
Let's talk about when you
Like,
first. I know.
Got heavy there for a while.
I'm like,
All right,
shit.
we're good. We're fine. We're fine.
Acting, how did it all? I mean, I think you mentioned your first thing, but how did you progress from there?
Yeah, well, it went from I used to be in the restaurant business. I had a great career in the restaurant business. We had a bunch of restaurants, and then one day I just honestly was like, I cannot do this anymore for a bunch of reasons. There was a lot of family involved, and I just can't do it anymore. I didn't know what else to do. Some of my friends, they suggested I take an acting lesson. Like, go and take a acting lesson. I'm like, I used to employ actors in the restaurants, and it used to drive me crazy because often I'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, great. You're not an actor by any chance, are you? Yes, I am. I'm sorry, I can't employ you. Because, you employ actors.
And then they get a job?
They get a job and they're gone. They're
Right,
you don't even get any notice, right? And now I understand it, but at the time I was like, God. Anyway, take an acting lesson. Oh, all right. Anyway, so that thing happened with Michael Shirtliff in that big class where I was struck by lightning, and then I just, it's one of those things where how do I progress? What do I do? There was no I didn't belong to an infrastructure. I didn't belong to a school, you know, or an acting.
But you were
troupe.
doing well in food, right? And being
Yes, that was all good.
wow.
That was all good. But it was when I started as an actor.
Oh, you
There was nothing. I didn't know how to progress. Right. There was no ladder to climb. I didn't know what to do. So I would just, you know, you just figure it out. You know, you get an agent. You go to a couple of auditions.
Yeah.
And then, you know, a lot of this work is about luck.
Yeah.
A lot of it is about luck. And I got lucky. You know, I was like an unusual person in Toronto, where there was a lot of American production
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
And I would always be cast as like the unusual guy, the guy from out of town, you know. And of course, this whole notion of, you know, not having any hair on your head and having a beard means that you must be evil,
Yeah, of course. Of
right?
course.
You have to be evil.
Of course.
For heaven's sakes, you've got no hair.
What does no hair have to do? I'm evil.
And like, and so from the start, I played a lot of bad guys, but from the start, I made a decision that, okay, this seems to be a thing now. Me playing these bad guys, I want to play them. I will never play a bad guy.
Yeah, of course.
No bad person gets up in the morning and goes,
No.
I'm a bad guy.
No, not at all.
Right?
Not at all.
They get up and they go, I'm just a guy.
Yeah.
And so the more charming and approachable,
That's what I like. Yeah.
you know, I think that it's better, you know,
Yeah.
then you actually do achieve something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But, you know, it just progressed from there. I started working on different American shows. You know, sometimes it'd just be an episode, sometimes it'd be heavily recurring. I did a lot of work on a show called Nikita.
Oh, Nikita.
Yeah, and Nikita was the connection with 24 because the showrunner for that show, Joel, he was the original showrunner on 24, and so when I eventually got my U.S. papers and was able to come to work in Los Angeles, I just called Joel and it's like, "Hey Joel, how's it going?" It's like, "Fine." You know, it's like, "Why are you calling me?" I'm like, "Well, I'm in Los Angeles." It's like, "Oh, okay, great. Let's write you into the show." And I told my friend who I was staying with at the time, I was sleeping on his couch, I said, "Yeah, I've spoken to Joel and they're going to write me into the show." And my friend's like, "You spoke to someone and they're going to write you into 24? Yeah, okay. This is LA. It just doesn't happen that way." And then, you know, like literally the next second, the phone rang and it was Joel saying, like, yeah, we'll.
Wow.
And so that was a beautiful way to be introduced to Los Angeles.
Yes.
Very lucky,
Very. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Super lucky.
Yeah.
And you know, and then you work. Sometimes you don't work, and
GH. How you liking that?
I fucking love it.
Yes.
God,
For
I
sure.
love it. I love so much about it because so much is a surprise. I'm not saying I was a hater. I'm just saying I didn't know the genre,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so as a result of not knowing the genre, I kind of discounted it.
Yes, I understand.
Okay. And then I go on the show and I'm like, first of all, everyone here is at the top of their game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the performances, considering the speed, it's exceptional.
Yes.
I saw your stuff in the church with I think it's already aired,
That was
so I can
sweet.
talk about it.
Yeah, it
with Sasha. It was so good.
Thank you.
It was so grounded and she was excellent.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, this is a great show with great performances. The speed of it
As a mother,
is crazy.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It
It's
is.
like jumping off a cliff every single day.
But the GH is the best job in the world because I've done other stuff where you have to do stuff outside and it's freezing and it's just not. I mean, I say I want to go back in the studio
Yeah, yeah.
because you know, and you don't have many hours you work.
I know. I spoke to my first few days on the show. I worked a lot with Jason,
Oh, Steve.
I mean, it's Steve, yeah. And he said the same thing. He said exactly the same
There's
thing.
nothing better. Yeah.
And he's like, he's obviously a very solid individual because he
Yes.
gave me like great advice
Yes.
as a newbie,
Yes.
which I needed. right?
Yes.
It's a bit overwhelming when you've never done a day,
It is
quote
overwhelming.
unquote daytime.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if we can call it daytime anymore because people are now watching it at all hours.
Yeah.
But it's a lot when you go on set your first day, you've got 40 pages of dialogue.
Ridiculous. Movie actors come in, their eyes get big, and they're like, "Can we do that again?" I said, "No, they're already on the fifth."
I know, exactly. That's what happened to me. I'm like, great. And it's like, do you think that I could? And no one was even listening to me.
Carlo, can we? Because I know you're a big star and you need to leave, but I'm just kidding. Can I ask you some questions about food,
Sure. Go ahead.
and then we'll end it? I want to ask you about your wife. I know how to make. My dad taught me how to make a steak.
Okay.
So he just basically said, put it on and don't put the seasoning until the blood starts coming up.
Okay.
That's how he taught me.
Right.
And he made the best steaks. So now my son's making steaks. Is that the way to make a steak? Or
Well, there's many ways to
all right.
skin a cat, so to speak. There's many ways to, there's you can grill it, right?
Right. Put it
You
on
can
pan.
you can grill it. My favorite way of making a steak is sort of like pan sauté.
Right.
But I can tell you now that another fantastic way of cooking a steak is to slow cook it first in the oven,
I think that's what Joshua does.
right? Slow cook it.
Yeah.
You bring it up to a certain temperature. You need to have one of those digital thermometers. So you
Yeah.
can check
He
it every
does
so-
that.
Okay. And when it's at like 122, 20 to 125, take it out of the oven, right?
Yeah.
And then let it rest for a little bit. Then you quickly sear it on both sides.
Yeah.
Because when the steak is at that temperature, it looks like a little bit like roadkill.
Yes.
Right. You want it to you want to sear it
Exactly.
quickly. Throw some butter in.
Yeah.
Throw some peppercorns in,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
baste it a little bit, and then always let it rest before you cut into it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Carlos. How did you meet Nazneen? And we've had such a great time. We'll end it like right here. Such a Nazneen. How did you meet her?
Well, I did an episode of Relic Hunter. It was a show that Tia Correa was the lead of. And I think Tia Correa did GH, didn't she? She did,
Maybe.
She
Is
may-
Tia? She did the Wayne's World.
yes.
Yeah.
Was she on GH? Or was
She
was-
might- she
was
might have
definitely on some soap.
She might have been on GH actually.
I think she was. Anyway, the point is, I'm playing the strict sultan of this makeup Middle Eastern state, and Nazneen is playing my daughter.
No.
Yes. Now we're actors, right?
I didn't know that.
We're actors. I tell this story to people, and they're like, "Oh," I'm like, "She's not really my daughter, for heaven's sakes."
Yeah.
Anyway, apparently, according to my wife, I don't remember this. I was very flirtatious. I'm not a flirtatious person.
Right.
I was very flirtatious, and we hit it off. And then I didn't see her for like 6 years or so. I ran into her again in Toronto, and she was wearing like these micro shorts that I think she purchased at Toys R Us. And I'm like, beautiful shorts. And she said, call me. She gave me her number. And then basically she came down to visit me in Los Angeles. And when I went to pick her up at the airport, she got off the plane. I saw her at LAX. I'm like, I think my days of being single are numbered.
That was it.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So
How long you guys been together?
we've been together for 17-ish
Damn.
years. We've been married for 14.
Wow.
And we have 2 kids, like I said. And Nazneen was the first woman, who essentially was like, what are we doing? What's going on here? Because before Nazneen, I was a serial dater, right? I mean, I would be with women for a couple of years, 3 years, whatever. And Nazneen was like, what are we doing? What's happening? I'm like, okay, yes, you're right. Let's get married. So I flew up to Toronto. I asked her dad permission
Good for you.
to marry her. I was so nervous. And, her dad was like, yeah, it's great, it's fine. But you know that she's a different religion than you are. I'm like, absolutely, 100%. And I said, and she'll continue to be a different religion than me. And I will honor that and support that, which is essentially why when our son reached a certain age, we took him to India to be initiated in my wife's religion, which she will explain all to you when you speak to her.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank God I got married.
In Hollywood, you guys are like, I've been married for 35 years.
Yeah.
It's rare, right? But when you find your soulmate, I know it's cliche, but when you find it, you just hold on to it.
There's also, without getting back into the heavy mental health issue again, I think there's also a mental health aspect to this business of not being able to stick it out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Again, sometimes you need help. Sometimes it's just helpful if you're with a partner who can talk things out with you.
Right.
Right.
Okay, Carlo, we've done it again.
You've done it again. Well, you've done it.
No, you've done it.
This is a fantastic setup you got.
Oh, thank you. It's. I want it to be like with my other in my place that I had last time was my apartment, and it always for the guests seemed homey. So I wanted to keep that homey feel. So we're not like, like in an interview type of thing. It's just a conversation at home. So my wife obviously did it up, and she knows what she's doing. All right, so can I just say one thing about Carlo? I didn't know him before he came in here. I mean, I talked to him a little bit at GH, never even worked with him. But he came in here guns blazing, and I loved it. Talked about mental health, talked about everything. He's just the kind of guest that makes me excited to keep doing this show. Not somebody who clams up. And I'm not saying anybody clams up. But I appreciate him coming. And thank you very much, man.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
State of mind. Bye-bye.
That was great. That was so enjoyable.
All right. Today, state of mind. I have a guest who, I don't know if we used to be called this, the Fearsome Foursome on General Hospital, but it was basically Lois, Ned, Sonny, and Brenda, and we were the 4 that would get in a lot of trouble, have a lot of fun. It was amazing. But this person who I have today, her eyes, and I'm not joking, they are like, Paula has beautiful eyes. Everybody always says Paula. But Rena's right there with these piercing blue eyes. They're almost like cat eyes. And she doesn't know this, but I was intimidated by her when I used to work with her. We could get into that later. Okay, so she was on GH, B&B. She's done some films, and I looked her up, and she's doing ceramics now, which she brought me something, and it's unbelievably beautiful. So here she is, Rena Safer.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to be here.
This is amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
So can we get to know you, or I should get to know you? Because, I mean, we it's like high school, these, you know, when you're on a show, especially
Yes.
the way we were back then, right?
Yeah.
But we don't really get to know, you know, like, where were you born and stuff?
Well, I was born here. I was born in Arcadia, California.
Oh.
And my dad was an Orthodox rabbi, and he started the temple in Arcadia. And then when my mother and he got divorced, my father moved us as far away from her as possible.
Oh, really?
Yes, which was the best thing he ever could do for us. It saved all of our lives. And so we moved to New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And basically, I grew up on the East Coast from the time I was just below 2 years old.
So then, you think there's mental health in your mom, or any kind of, or just
It's really interesting because I haven't spoken to her in 11 years. And,
Damn!
And literally about a week ago, she sends an email to my website, through my website, not my phone number, which is the only phone number I've had, not my email, which is the email she knows, but through my website. And it basically said, I have all of the pictures of you, your brother, and your daughter. And I have 3 daughters, but she's only talking about Rosabelle. And she says, I don't want them. I have no interest in connecting with you. Where should I send them? A P.O. box would be best. Literally after 11 years. And I sent her a P.O. box. I mean, I sent her my mailing address and no words whatsoever. But, you know, she came from an abusive mother. I came from an abusive mother, emotionally abusive, not physically. And I thankfully was raised by an incredible father who, my brother and I, who live a mile away from each other, we loved him more than anything. We were by his side when he took his last breath. We took care of him the second he got diagnosed with cancer, and until the day he died, we never left his side. And my brother's husband never left his side. My children never left his side. My husband never left his side. We were all there with him. And I was able to break the cycle of maternal abuse, emotional abuse in my family. And the only way I was able to do that was because my father raised us, and he prioritized getting us as far away from her as possible. Yeah. But I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to speak to her mental health because I'm not a doctor. She's never been diagnosed. Although, when she left my father and us, she became a professor of developmental psychology, which I find interesting. She's just somebody who doesn't know what she did to her children.
I got real moved, you know, and I don't bullshit. My emotions come and they don't come. A lot of times they don't come. But just because, as you were going through that whole beginning, what you just said, I just knew, and this happens to me lately a lot, that you're helping a lot of young girls out there. In this little passage. Now we're going to get into other stuff, and it's going to be like that. But whatever you just said to begin this is so valuable. And I'm just, you know, whoo, I'm already wiped out, and I got 2 other state of minds going later.
I want to talk about why you would ever be intimidated by me when I was
you want to
on-
get okay?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get into that. I
Okay.
promise. And remind me because I may forget.
I'm
But
gonna ask because it's usually because of the eyes. Everybody's intimidated.
No, that wasn't the eyes.
Okay.
I mean,
and
they're-
I'm like, I'm born with them. I
No.
didn't. It's nothing I worked
It
on.
wasn't the eye. The eyes were like, wow, those are great eyes. But that's not why you intimidated me. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that. When did you get into acting?
Well, I was this really messed up kid, you know, and messed up because I had this mother who wanted to undo everything my father did. And then when I was with my dad, I was raised in an incredibly Orthodox Jewish community. I went to Lubavitch yeshivas my whole life, you know, where they had the payas and the black hats. And
No,
that's how I was raised.
The TV show?
Yeah. That's how I was raised. And so I'd go to my mother's house and she would be like, she would make sure that there was lard in all the bread and that we, you know, she'd basically starve us out, you know, because we couldn't eat anything. And she'd put us in a position of, you have to break the rules in order to survive. And then we go to my dad's and we had just had all of these experiences. And then his world was so secular and so rigid, and I'd be like, well, I've already had my toe in this other world and I'm still alive and everything's okay, and you know, God didn't strike me down. So what happened is I just never fit in anywhere. And eventually I went on tour in Israel on a youth tour thing with my brother, and I made friends for the first time. And I had friends in my schools, but these were like they were Jewish, but they weren't the religious Jews that I was used to. And they smoked and...
What about sex in that? People have sex when you're not supposed to have sex or something? Or?
Well, not until you're married.
Damn.
Sex in Judaism is what's called a mitzvah. You're supposed to have sex. God wants you to have
Right.
sex, but just not when you're not married. So,
Ooh.
which is pretty much most, you know,
Yeah.
marriages. Most
Nobody
religions
really follows it.
Yeah, but I mean that wasn't even my issue. I was more interested in friends than I was in boys at that point.
Oh.
And so I went on this tour. I met a couple of young girls and they really changed my life. And one day I was in the Village with one of them. We were hanging around on 8th Street in New York City, and this woman approached me, and we all thought she was going to hit on me, and she was older and it was weird. And she just said, I'm an agent at the Elite Modeling Agency. I handled the petite division, and we want to know if you want to be a model. And I was like, me? And you know, I was never raised with people telling me I was pretty.
Oh.
Ever. And, you know, it wasn't one of those things I grew up with. It wasn't precious to me. It wasn't something I played upon. When I was in school, boys weren't like, oh my God, Rena. They did not like me. So it was odd. It was
But
such
wait a
a
minute. How can
shocking
you
thing.
not be told you're beautiful when you look like you must have looked?
Adults would say it sometimes,
Right.
but it just wasn't part of my culture.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it just wasn't part of my world. And my father said, sure, why not?
Wow.
Which, you know, was it was a little alarming to me because he's this Orthodox rabbi, and being in the business of acting is weird. He wasn't a part of any of it. I at 15 years old was getting myself on a bus and going to New York and going to photographers and getting pictures taken and all by myself. Yeah. I mean, of course we live in a different world now, don't we? But yeah, I was a kid and I was going to New York.
And did you do well as a petite model?
Oh, no. I did terribly. I was not good. I tried, you know, it was really hard for me because I'd walk into these rooms and they'd look at my picture and they go, okay, next. And I was like,
Yeah, no.
that rejection was hard.
Yeah.
And I said to the woman, I go, yeah, I don't think this is for me. And she goes, well, why don't you try acting? And I was like, all right, sure. And I was still in high school, so I didn't really have to worry about too much, stuff if I wasn't getting something. But what happened is I started working right out of high school.
Really?
And my first thing was Another World, and then I got Loving. And Mark Teschner cast me on Loving, and that was it. And then I've just always worked.
When did you get the films like Sidney Lumet? You worked with Sidney
in New York.
How was that?
It was amazing.
What does he say to you as directing that is so different, or does he say anything?
Here's the thing about directors like him. They cast the people that they don't have to say a lot to, in my opinion. So we go to this audition, and this movie is about Orthodox Jews.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, that's perfect for me. But I walk into the audition, and I'm only 5'5.5". And there are all of these tall, Nordic-looking blonde women. Yeah. And the scene is about a woman talking to her future husband. And I'm watching the women, because we used to be able to audition in a room.
Yeah.
And you'd go in the room and you'd see who you're up against.
Yeah.
And all these women are doing this. They're like, and I'm watching them, and they're doing the scene as if they're flirting. And I know that no Orthodox Jewish woman will ever look a man in the eye unless he is her husband.
Whoa.
It's what's called negia. It is about modesty. And you don't do that ever. It is number one not okay. I mean, I have family that are Hasidic Jews, and I don't hug them hello because I'm not allowed to touch them. Wow. You just know. And so I'm watching them all, and I'm like, they're doing that wrong. So when I walked in, I played her the way I knew how to play her. And I do the scene, and the room is enormous. His office was enormous. Right. And you walk all the way down, and you sit down, and you're sitting in front of him, and he goes, and I audition, I do the scene, and he goes, "Thank you very much. I will see you again."
Ooh.
And I walked out. Get a call back, go back in, do the scenes. Thank you very much. I will see you again.
Dang.
Then I get a call, and they said, "Can you do a French accent?" And I was like, absolutely. I mean, I had no idea I could do a French accent, but as soon as I heard that, I went and I got a dialect coach. I got the job, and I played this character who was French.
Whoa.
And an Orthodox Jew. And if you ever see the movie, oh my God, I look like a baby. I mean, I'm just this small little round
Melanie
girl
Griffith.
with huge eyebrows. Yeah, Melanie Griffith. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. And that really was the impetus for me to leave Los Angeles and leave New York and move to Los Angeles. And of course, once you get out to Los Angeles, it's just a whole other, I wasn't prepared for that. And that took a while. I started working right away, and then I stopped.
You did Seinfeld?
That was a long time after. That was after General Hospital.
Oh, it was?
Oh, yeah. Because I had Roosevelt. Yeah.
And how was that experience? Just because of the aura of what that is.
Again, you walk into an audition and you're standing in front of Jerry Seinfeld, and you're just like, "I'm auditioning for you? Okay."
That's
it was
amazing.
Like, yes. And it was so fun. And, they were fun, and they enjoyed themselves so much. And it was, it was a great opportunity to watch these incredible actors do their thing. And you soak it up.
And then GH, how did that come about?
Well, I had called Mark. Mark had moved over to GH when I moved to Los Angeles. I think we moved around the same time, or he moved just before me or something like that, or just after me. And he took over GH, and I was miserable in Los Angeles. I had no friends. I lived in a terrible place. I didn't know what I was doing. And I needed a new agent. And I kind of like a little bit lost my mind, got in my car one day and started to drive east. And I kept driving for
Really?
about 3 months. I just got in my car and just drove. I wanted to see the Grand Canyon. So I thought, I'm just going to go to the Grand Canyon. And Randolph Mantooth at the time, who's a really good friend
Yeah.
of mine, thought I was going to throw myself off the Grand Canyon. He said, don't do anything stupid. And I'm like, I'm not killing myself. The whole reason I'm driving away is because I need to save my life. And I
Right.
called my father and I said, I'm losing it here. And he goes, I will cover your rent and all your bills until you go back home. Go do what you need to do. But why don't you start driving towards me? And I said, okay. So, and he lived in New Jersey. So I started driving. I wanted to see Graceland. I wanted to see New Orleans. Where was I going to go next? And I did that for about 3 months.
Jeez.
And on the road, I called Mark, and Mark said to me, when you come back to LA, I will set you up with 3 meetings with 3 agents and help you get an agent. But I'm only going to do the 3. And I was like, okay. And one of them became a woman that I was with for 15, 20 years. She was amazing. I'm so grateful to her to this day. She was one of the best people I ever met. And Mark called me and said, let's go out to dinner and celebrate that you got an agent. I'm like, yay, okay. That's when I came back. And he goes, by the way, there's a part on General Hospital. And I go, I don't want to do another soap. And he goes, why? And I go, because they're so heartbreaking. If you're not that lead person,
Right.
you just sit there and sit there and sit there, and you're just at the mercy of these writers. And that is always true. It's always been
Yeah,
true. Even
yeah.
to Bold and Beautiful,
Yeah.
it's still true. And he goes, but I really think you'd like this role. And I'm like, what is it? And he's like, go out to dinner with me. I'm going to bring the sides. I said, okay.
At dinner?
At dinner. And we went to dinner, and he hands me the sides, and I look it over, and I'm like, oh, she's from Brooklyn. And he's like, yeah. And I go, well, do you want an accent? And he's like, can you do an accent? I'm like, of course I can do an accent. And so I started doing the accent, and I'm doing Lois, and I'm playing the whole thing, and I'm running the lines with him. And he's like, please come audition. And I said, okay. I talked to my agent. She's like, sure, why not? And so I went and I auditioned. And they ended up testing me, and I'm testing with Wally, and there are all these women who have all these long nails and everything. And I was like, if I get the part, they'll put the nails on me. I don't have to do that. And I just, Lois she lived in me. It was
Yeah.
this weird thing where all of a sudden
Yeah.
I started saying the words, and this person, it's like a ghost just came and sat inside of me and lived in me. And I remember saying, when I grow up, I want to be Lois, because she was the best person I've ever known. She just was honest and straightforward and smart.
And friends with Sonny.
And best friends with
Best
Sonny, by
friends.
the way. And that's the one part that they never took advantage of.
Yeah, we
They
were
never took advantage of the fact that these two grew up together.
Yeah.
And your character at that time was so scary, and
Yeah.
and I just felt like Lois would be the only person who can come and smack you on the side of the head and go, what are you doing?
Yeah, right.
And you couldn't do anything about it, because
Right.
I knew too many people in Bensonhurst that would buck you up
Right,
if you
right.
did anything. But they never really took advantage
No.
of that. But obviously, I got married to Wally, and in real life, not just on the show, and had my 2 gorgeous daughters, Megan, who was his, and Rosabelle, who's ours. And
How long were you
and
married?
he was great. I think we were only really married for 2 years, and then we were kind of separated for another 2 some odd years. It took us a long time to get divorced, because we were like, we didn't care until we met our spouses, and they were like, hey, and we were like, oh, I guess we should do this. Yeah. But I mean, we didn't have a horrible breakup.
Nah.
We fell in love on TV. And when I left the show, we realized, oh, our characters were in love.
Wow.
We weren't in love. Those characters, we lived and breathed them so much. But when I left, we really learned that
So
I really like Wally a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, he's an incredible
He's
guy.
sweet.
He's just not the guy for me, and it really took me leaving for both of us to realize that we weren't meant
So
to be
that's
together.
almost like acting love, not when you leave, you realize it's not real love, but it.
Well, that's why there are so many relationships that happen on
Exactly.
sets, is because you are thrown into this microcosm of this weird family unit and you don't see past it. And then once you leave, you see past it and you go, oh, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's really what happened. And it's totally fine because I gained so much
Absolutely.
from that relationship.
And your guy now, I like him a lot. I only met him once, but he seems really cool.
Sandy is great. And we also got divorced. We were married for 14 years. We got divorced. We were separated for 3 years, but then we got back together.
I was just talking to my buddy, and I said, when, like with Paula, there was a moment where it was like we weren't going to be together, but then now we ended up being together for so long. That usually doesn't happen. When you stop
Yeah.
and try to get back, but you made it work, I made it work.
Yeah.
But yours is divorce. It's
Yeah.
even harder.
I needed it to end.
Yeah.
I needed the death of the relationship to understand how to live in the relationship.
Ooh, that's a beautiful way of putting it.
I could not, I lost myself in the marriage. And
Yeah.
it wasn't his fault. It was me trying to be something I wasn't, me losing sight of how to fix it. And the only way I could fix it is I literally had to be like an octopus. I had to cut that tentacle off and let it die and wait for it to grow back. And I was very lucky that when it finally did, he wanted me back. He never wanted a divorce. It was me who really pushed for it.
So now I'm going to tell you why I was intimidated by
Yes.
it. Because, well, you have to understand, I fooled a lot of people because I was very nervous all the time. Acting. Life. Not now, because thank God it left after I'm going to be 60. But then I was always nervous. And you were so good. And you had a certain intensity and energy. Forget the eyes. The eyes is what it is. It was, but it was your intensity that made me even, I'm a good actor, so I could fake a lot of hiding the nerves. But I remember working with you. It was you and Jeannie Francis are the ones that intimidated me. I don't know and that's the truth.
If I had known that then, see, here's the thing that I've also learned, especially on soaps. I don't think that part of my personality always works for me in a friendship kind of way.
Yeah.
But what I've learned is I am intense, especially when I work, because I don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
I want to do the best we can do.
Yeah.
We have usually only one shot to do it, and I want it to be great. And I need you to, when you're coming to work with me, I want you to be on the ball.
Yeah.
I don't want you not knowing your lines. And I remember one time, Vanessa
Marcel, people.
Vanessa Martel, who I love.
Yes.
And I remember one time she was late. She was late to work. She didn't show up, and she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I overslept," and she didn't know her lines. And I just remember looking at her and going, "I don't care who you do that with. Don't do it with me. I don't want that." And I think it really affected her. And maybe she doesn't even remember that I said that, but I think it affected her because every time we ever worked together again, we worked to make our relationship deeper than what they were writing it, which I think is why it was so intense and beautiful. It was our relationship on the show as best friends was almost a love story. And if I had known you were intimidated, I would have gone to your room and go, I am seriously a human being. I just want to do exactly what you're doing, which is the best work you can do. We should be playing our relationship that they're not writing on every single thing we do. We should find those moments.
The intimidation actually it wasn't, whatever we did worked.
Oh yeah.
So it wasn't like
It worked, but
my health, let's say.
yeah.
It wasn't because a lot of stuff was going on inside me at
Yeah.
that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it probably, because of the way I act, is I use all that and infuse it, and it probably added a certain darkness or maybe danger. Mm-hmm. You know, if I'd have been lighter, it might not have been as.
No. I didn't want you to be lighter. I just think the thing that General Hospital never took advantage of is that these two people grew up together. And I don't know who else has played Lois and how they did it, but
Has anybody played?
one person played Lois other than me.
Oh.
And the problem is and this has nothing to do with her. I'm sure she did a great job, but they lost there's so little connection of past history.
The history, yeah.
And we had a history, and we had two characters that had massive personalities that should have had a more connective history.
I agree
You know,
with that.
because the thing about Sonny when I was on the show is he wasn't beholden to anyone.
No.
But it would have been interesting if in some past of theirs he was beholden to Lois, and that Lois was almost his good angel on his shoulder. That would have been an interesting story. And when Sonny would fall apart at times, he would show up on Lois's door and be like, I need my good angel, or I need my something. That Lois would be like, I'm going to drop everything. I know what you need. Sit down. And then she'd bring out a big bowl of pasta and she'd go, all right, what do you need? You know what I mean? And so those are the moments that I think General Hospital didn't take advantage of, that knowing now, you know, being on Bold and the Beautiful, I just had this love story.
Yeah, let's talk about Bold and Beautiful, because
Yeah,
I looked up you, and it's just inundated with you leaving the show. So
Yeah.
you were there 9 freaking years.
Yeah, that was the longest I've ever been anywhere.
And you were hella popular.
Yeah, I was.
From what I don't
was.
watch, but I read.
Yeah, I was the bad girl of the show who was, you know, had a toe in the murderous area, but I'm not like some of the characters on the show that are like really bad.
Right.
But I got to create this character like I did with Lois, but the character of Quinn was, I wanted her to be a human being. I really infused a lot of humanity in her. When I first started the show, they were really moving her towards being a gold digger. And I just said, listen, I don't play gold diggers, because gold diggers are all about money.
Right.
And once they get their money, where do they go?
Right.
And I just, I didn't want to play that. So I played it differently, and I had a really great time. But towards the end, they put me together with this man, Lawrence Victor, who had been on the show longer than I had. But he was that character that was the lawyer who married people, divorced people, sued people, ran the company,
Right.
you know. And out of nowhere, they put us together. And I sat him down in my dressing room one day and I said, listen, we can do what's on the page, or we can create something off the page. We'll say what they want us to say, but we can make it something
Yeah.
deeper.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I would say to anyone doing a soap opera.
Yeah.
Know your lines so well
Yeah.
that you can create the depth
Yeah.
beyond
Yeah.
what they want you
Right.
to say.
Right.
And have a conviction about who you want to play. And so we would work, we would run lines for the next day and the day
Damn.
after in our dressing room after, you know, that day's work. And we would call each other and go, okay, this isn't working. How do we, you know, I don't like this scene. Where do we go? How do we do
Damn.
this? Or, you know, we tried to find moments where where we would stop and just look at each other and laugh or have a moment or, you know, do different things. And I was famous for walking into a scene and being like, I've never used that prop that's on the set. Can I start here? And I would start with like a hat on my head and he'd walk in and I'd scare
He's a
him
cool
or
guy.
something. Oh, he's great. And I just looked at him and I go, you've been here for longer than I have. And you need to realize that you're a leading man. So let's show them that you're a leading man. And he did. He proved it. And he was great. And I loved working with him. But it was about creating something that wasn't on the page, you know. And I think that's my success in soaps is I for some reason am able to create what's not on the page, as opposed to nighttime television where there are too many people involved, and if you're not the star of the show, you don't really get to be, you know, they're like, no, we don't want you to do that. Yeah.
So then you just left, or when did
I just left. I left in August.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did you feel?
Well, okay. I love the fact that Bold and the Beautiful gave me the opportunity to be a full-time stay-at-home mom. I raised, my husband's a director, so he would get a job and be like, I have to leave in a week. And he'd be gone for 3.5 to 4 weeks. Sometimes, you know, last year he was gone for 8 months doing the Dexter reboot. And somebody had to be home. And we really decided, you know, again, with the mother issues, we didn't want anybody else raising our children. I made a very conscious decision that I was not going to make my life more important than my children's lives.
Right.
I brought these children into the world. I'm not going to have somebody else raise them, and I'm not going to make my life so important that they're scrambling to feel security or connection because I'm going from one job to the next. I'm not saying that doesn't work for other people.
Yeah, sure.
It wouldn't have worked for me.
Right.
And so we really made the decision that I was going to stay home, not leave LA. All of the jobs were leaving LA, and I needed to. My daughter loved her school, loved where she was. I had an older daughter who was going into high school, and I just needed to be there. So Bold and the Beautiful came around, and I did it. And then I knew if I was going to stay, and, you know, every time I'd renew my contract, I just knew that when my youngest daughter was going into her senior year of high school, I was going to leave. And that my contract ended. And I just didn't renew it because my daughters are all 10 years apart. So I've been a mom for a really long time. And I wanted my time. I wanted to follow my dreams. I had done it. I had been the mom. I had stayed home. You know, and Sandy also, I mean, he's a great dad. And when he was home, but he had no other choice. He had to go wherever the work took him.
Rena, is what she's talked about here is she's, you know, it's like she talks in real life like she isn't as an actress. I'm just interested in watching her talk.
I like to call myself the anti-actress.
And, you know, because when you can talk and I'm just like real interested in watching her. But I appreciate you coming because, especially in the beginning, you got into some stuff, like I said before, that was just important. And then we got into the soap stuff, which fans love.
Yeah.
And you got into some great stuff, marriage and divorce, and I appreciate you coming.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, it's great. It's like old days.
I wasn't intimidating, though, was I?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll speak for myself. Sometimes you get what you're saying, and it still doesn't change. I've had a lot of all that in my career. You're the great, everything's great, you're the great. And and then anxiety still came.
Sure.
Depression still came.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I only believe, I have to believe, and and I'm going to say, well, we're going to get into your stuff. We might as well get into it now, because I feel like it should get into now. Steve gave me some books.
Okay, we're going there. All right.
Yeah, that really, it was generous of him. I get emotional. God damn. Because it was a tough time for me, but these books are amazing. Like 5 books, might have been 4 books.
4.
And you know, every morning I get up, because I think you're going to talk more about what you do.
Yeah.
As coaching, whatever
Yeah.
you're doing. It's just a way to get up in the morning and have a routine. Because and the reason it works, especially for me, is because mornings are the toughest.
Yes, they are.
When
sir.
I get up,
This is amazing you're saying this.
my mind could go here
Oh, it will go there.
or it could go here.
Sure.
So, because I feel the ugly, it's less ugly now, I will say, but it's this thing that I feel in the morning. So Steve has given me these books, told me some stuff to do, and I'm looking forward to something in the morning.
Yes.
So you can speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, what you say is right, because and it's all raising, we're all energy.
Right.
Okay? We're all energy. We know when somebody has bad energy when they walk
Yeah.
in their room, and we know when somebody has great energy when they walk in a room.
Right.
Right? This is a vibrational state. You can look at the chart. Usually people with low energy have anxiety, fear, worry, regret, shame,
Right.
remorse. This is where they're
Yes.
living. This is where they're living. You done with that bottle yet? Or are we just going to ruin the whole show because of your bottle?
It's done.
That's great
It's
for
done.
sound. It's great
It's
for sound.
done. I know.
It's great
it
for
is.
sound. So people live in this and they don't understand that they live in this. They live in anxiety, worry, fear, shame, beating themselves up, guilt.
Yeah.
Right? They live in this low vibrational state. Well, what's high vibrational? Gratitude,
Right.
love,
Yeah.
right? So what you say is
Is
that
peace too? Or
it's
not?
peace. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
joy.
you could look at joy, you could look on it, but there's love, abundance, self-actualization, and something else. But for me, it's so important, and this is why what you said about the morning is nobody gets up in the morning, dude, and goes, "Yeah, baby, today's the day."
No, it doesn't.
Unless the kid's going to Disneyland. You don't.
No.
You wake up going, "Oh, man, I don't even want to get up."
Yeah.
Right? So I started this I say it's a program, but really I built this program for me. We all know what I went through the last couple of years. It's public. It doesn't matter. We don't need to get into that stuff. But a year prior to this, I said I was on this path of, man, how can I be mentally tougher in my life? Because people could have said, yeah, you're pretty disciplined, you're pretty motivated, you have all you like to do different businesses and all this stuff. But you still don't have internal peace all the time.
No.
You're battling. People are battling, man. Battling. I see it. I coached. I have 500 women this month.
Wow.
And I see the pain and I see the despair and I see the hopelessness
Yeah.
and this stuff, right? And so I started doing a program for myself. I started waking up at 3:59 a.m. in the morning, every morning, without fail. Didn't miss it for over a year,
Wow.
right? Because nobody wants to get up at 4 a.m. Nobody, right? So I'm going, okay, I'm going to get up. And then I set up this morning routine where I want to get to a place of gratitude in the morning because of what you said. You don't feel like it. And guess what? If you don't feel like it and you're not doing anything to help that or combat that, your day's going to suck
Right.
because you're going to get on the phone. You're going to see bad emails. You're going to see the news, which is garbage. You're going to see all this negativity. Then you're rushing to get out of the house and you're in traffic and all this stuff and you're barely keeping your head above water. I don't want to leave the house that way ever. So I haven't missed in 3 years. I do the same morning routine. It depends on the state I wake up in. If I feel like, oh, I'm okay, I'm okay today. right? Then it's going to take me 20 minutes to get to, yeah, let's go. This is going to be great. I do prayer, I do meditation, I do breathing, I do the books that I gave you. And then I do, I do some visualization of the things that I want in my life and the things that I'm grateful for. And I picture it. And as an actor, it's easy because we feel gratitude.
Yeah.
You want to feel the gratitude. You can't just say, oh, I'm grateful for my car and my couch and my cat and this and that, right?
Yeah.
If you're not feeling it, you're not grateful.
Right.
Right? So it's raising your energy, your vibrational state of going, hey, I'm grateful for this. Doesn't matter what's going on in your life. I'm grateful for this.
Yeah.
Right? And then I would be working out multiple times a day for my mental state. I'd be in a calorie deficit daily because I feel more connected. Philosophers, other religions, Christ, the disciples, they would fast to have a direct contact with
Right.
God. I feel I have more clarity. So I'm working mind, body, and spirit, and I feel better every single day. And I'm at this vibrational state where like, man, this is good. This day is going to be amazing, right? So when I leave the house, then I can respond. If someone cuts me off, I'm like, cool. He's probably late to work. As opposed to the old
Yeah,
Steve,
yeah.
where the anger would be,
Right.
not great because
Yes.
you knew I had anger issues.
Yes.
You told me to go to
Yeah.
therapy for it,
Yeah.
which I did, and now because of this, I'm free.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so at peace in here
Yeah.
because of the practices that I do and what I've been studying and getting to this place of gratitude every single day and feeling good about myself, investing in me. The main thing, one of the main reasons why what I've seen with the thousands now probably that I've coached is the main problem is we don't love ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? And that's where all this other stuff comes from. The worry, the regretting the past, the worrying about the future, the depression, the anxiety, all this stuff. And how do we combat that? I coached a psychiatrist and a psychologist. They came into my program. Yes, it's for weight loss. You're going to lose weight. But once you get in, you realize it's way deeper than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's people whose anxiety has been cut in half in the first 2 weeks just by investing in you in the morning,
Yeah.
just by the gratitude, getting a workout in, choosing something good to eat, sending gratitude texts. I have people do that, right? So when you have this in place and you start loving you will innately start to love yourself when you show yourself positive actions. If you're in
Yes.
a negative state,
Yes.
nothing positive comes out of the negative state.
Yeah.
If we raise it, positive's going to come. You invest in you daily, you feel good, man. When you have a wake up time and you go, hey, my wake up time's 7, and you hit it for 30 days, you're proud of yourself.
Yeah.
You hit your right macronutrients 3 days in a row, you're proud of yourself. You feel good. I got this workout in, I went on a walk, you're proud of yourself. And women especially, they put themselves last. As you know, I've had this conversation with Paula.
Yeah.
Our whole friendship,
Yeah.
right? Take care of you.
Yeah.
Paula, you have to spend time and take care of you. You
Yeah.
take care of everybody else. And this resonates with most women I coach. They put themselves last. And this is a chance for them to start to love themselves. And some of them are 40, some of them are 60.
Yeah.
Some have been with me for a year and have the incredible transformations of the mindset. If the mind doesn't change,
Yeah.
nothing ever sticks. It's all a Band-Aid and temporary. So that's why, sure, they come in for fitness, or guys do for weight loss and all this stuff, but they realize it's about changing the mind. It's about investing in you. No self-investment, you have no self-worth.
A lot of them don't have discipline to start, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's why they need the structure, right? You said the thing, the structure. I always say there's freedom in structure,
Yeah.
right? If you don't have any structure,
Yeah.
you're just letting your time, is time running you, or are you running your time?
Right.
Right. So
right.
that's what it comes down to. So I set them up with a structure, and, sure enough, 7 days of like hitting some of these habits, these little habits, completely changes someone's life. And imagine a year in.
Yeah. Yeah.
People have lost 60, 70 pounds. Their mindset's changed, their business. I helped a guy. It was the most incredible transformation. and he's like elevated at work multiple times because of it. It's just crazy, man.
That's the beauty.
When you invest in you, you're not worried about the outcome because you're trying to be the best. I'm trying to be the best version of myself every day.
Right.
Every day.
Right.
Right? And if I do that, I know doors are going to open up. I know I'm going to hit my goal physically. I know I'm going to hit goals because this is the best me.
Yes. And can I just say one thing?
Yes, sir.
Then you don't have to talk, but I believe that what you've been through in the last 2-3 years is one of the most difficult things any man can go through. And I mean that and believe it from the bottom of my heart. And I believe now that I hear you talking that you had to go through that
100%.
to be able to do what you're doing now.
100%.
And we go, damn, I want to follow this guy.
Here's the yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
It's kind of like my thing. When people hear I was at a mental institution,
Sure.
tied down to it, they're like, we want to follow this because I believe he's been through. And what you did is unbelievable.
Oh, thank you, man. I get goosebumps, you know, because I listen, I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. And I believe God was preparing me because I was doing this routine that I'm talking about for a year prior. Because here's what it comes down to. Everybody is going to face adversity in their life. Okay? Life's going to smack you in your face.
Yeah.
It's going to kick you while you're down. It's not going to be kind. And you really figure out who you are during the tough times. And the thing is if you don't have the tools to deal with when life comes and smashes your face, you're in trouble.
Yes. Right.
Okay? Especially if you have any mental illness, any kind of anxiety, anything, you're gonna not, it's not gonna be good.
No.
Right? Because normally, even if you don't have those things, what are you doing? You're running to vices.
Yeah.
You're drinking, you're gambling, you're doing all the stuff you shouldn't be doing, right? To band-aid the pain. But obviously I have great faith. That's a huge part of my day. But the disciplines, the daily habits of going, hey, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I can do this. I'm mentally tough. I can get through this. And have the self-control and the discipline not to do things that you would want to do. Right? So that's why this is valuable.
Yeah,
and that's why I love it and I teach it. And I've seen people completely change because we're all going to get hit with stuff. And it's how you deal with it.
Yeah.
What are your tools?
Yeah.
Right? Because here's what happens. When you invest in yourself daily and you get out of the fear-based victim mindset, which most people would go to when something happens in their life, and you could rightly be a victim. But if you take that mindset, you're going to stay in this vibrational state, blaming people, being angry at people, all this stuff. That's not where we want to be.
And it's going to keep happening.
Keep happening.
That's the thing.
100% it will keep happening.
Because you have, I always say, when you go through something, like I've been too many times to even talk about, and there's two roads to go. You got the wrong road and the right road.
100%.
And if you go down the wrong road, which is what you're saying, you're going to be in big trouble.
You're going to be on the wrong road for a long time.
But what I want to do, Steve, is prevent it from happening. That's the way to fix it. Prevent it.
I'm telling you, this is how you prevent it.
Let's see if I get anxiety.
No, but this is how you prevent it. If you're really committed, which you are, to the morning, your anxiety is going to be way less than it's ever been. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. So that's where this is prevention. Because people are like, what are you doing? Why are you doing so much? Why are you doing this? I said, I'm training for life.
Yeah.
Because life's coming.
Yeah.
Winter comes.
Yeah.
We know winter comes. Are you prepared when winter comes or not?
Yeah.
Right? And if we can,
that's what it is, yeah.
Right. And what this does is it enables you to not be, no matter what happens, not be a victim.
Yeah.
not be a victim, because when you're not a victim and you go, man, life is teaching me some lessons right now. What are they? What are these lessons? When you can invest in yourself so much and start to love yourself, and you know that you're there for you,
Right.
right? Because when winter comes, sometimes nobody's there but you.
Right.
As
Right.
you know,
Yes.
you've been there.
Yeah.
You've been alone.
Yeah.
You've been in pain.
Yeah.
No one's coming,
Yeah.
right? So with these tools, you're able to go, okay, I'm okay. What's going on? What's happening? What's the lesson here? What am I
Yeah.
being taught?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So that's the great quote of life's happening for you, not to you.
Right.
When it happens for you, when you get into this mindset of, okay, this is life. I'm ready for life. What is it? What do you got? I'm good. I'm disciplined, mentally tougher, all these things. What is it? Okay, this is the hand that I'm being dealt. This is the hand. So I have a choice how to play the hand.
Right.
Right? So that's why those books are so important. And one of them is The Daily Stoic, which I gave you. Right? And it's always learning how to, there's 3 questions I ask myself every single day. Can I control this? If I can't control it, I've become a master of shutting it down. Not letting anybody or any external circumstance dictate in here anymore.
Right.
Right? Shut it down. I can't control it. Done. Not giving it my energy, not giving it power, because we sure like to give other people our power.
Yeah.
Right? I don't like to. I like to protect my power and my peace. So I'm going to go, I'm shutting it down. Then I say, what's going to be the lesson today? Because you're always going to have a test. Every day you're going to have a test. It could
Yeah.
be a little test. It could be a huge
Right.
test. And I want to pass the test
Right.
because it's going to be presented to me and I'm either going to pass it or fail it. I want to pass.
Right.
And then I say, does my energy, behavior, and habits align with who I want to create as a man? Mm-hmm. Right? It's not about finding yourself. It's about creating who you want to be.
Yes.
Who do you want to be? And what I'm finding out is when my clients or the ladies and the gentlemen, when they start investing in themselves, they start to go, wow, I do have value. They start loving themselves.
Yeah.
And so many times what's happened, Mo, is when they invest in them, they start creating this new person. And after a year, they can actually look down and back on this other person.
Right.
They're like,
Right.
man, that's really not me anymore. I don't have to tell this story anymore. Because, most people tell themselves a story.
Of course.
And that's on
Their own movie.
their own movie.
Right.
And a lot of times their own movie's not even the fact. Right?
Right.
And I'm saying because they look at it as a negative and they're telling themselves their own negative story all the time. And that's the other thing too, is we always have to be aware of our self-talk.
Yeah.
How do you talk to yourself when things go south? When things get tough, how are you talking to you?
Yeah.
And that's very important because 80% of our thoughts or something is negative.
I know.
So we have to combat it. That's the whole thing. Is like, we don't want to get up and be like, yeah, today's awesome. We're going to have negative self-talk. We're going to have doubts. We're going to have fears. We're going to have worries. We're going to have anxiety. Everybody is. But how do we combat that? Okay? There's ways to combat it, which I'm finding, which I'm seeing, without running to medication.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not, and we've had these talks, and if the blood work shows it.
No. My feeling on that is, I with bipolar, I take lithium. Been taking them, and it's been great for as long as it's a salt that,
Sure.
that I'm lacking.
Yeah.
But with anxiety, I never took anything. But I always say, if it gets to a level of, let's get to the bottom line here.
Sure.
Where you're thinking of doing yourself in.
Yeah.
And that's not leaving. You
Yeah.
need something.
Well, you need help for sure.
Right. And I took some medication then.
For sure.
But guess what? It got me over fine. Got off it. But lately, I felt maybe not that bad, but pretty bad. I didn't take medication. They wanted me to go on Lexapro.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And I
And
think...
are you glad you didn't?
Absolutely. I don't want to take anything.
Yeah, I know.
Lithium's different in a sense because it's bipolar and
Yeah.
chemical imbalance and all that. But for anxiety or even sleeping, if I have problems, I don't want to take it. I'm real weird with medication.
Yeah, I would be too.
Right?
Yeah, you don't want it as a crutch. I mean,
Yeah. And then you start thinking
because then you just need it, and then it takes away from your state of mind and your mental toughness,
Right.
right? And that's what it's about. We don't want to have to rely on that stuff. And it's so interesting because the mind is truly the only thing we have control of.
Yeah.
Right? We can eat clean, you still get a disease. This is the real estate that you have control of.
Yeah.
And if you don't actively work at controlling it, it will control you. We know this.
Yeah.
You've experienced this.
Many
I've had, I had the walking nervous breakdown years ago.
Yeah.
But I know what it feels like to lose your mind a little bit.
Well, that's
Where you go, wow, something broke.
Yeah, but what's funny is you had that,
Yeah.
and I don't know what was going on in your life, and then the last 3 years you didn't have that.
No.
It's amazing. So whatever you're doing is working.
Yeah, no, it's working.
You get my drift?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I don't know what you went through when you had that thing, but it wasn't even close to what's going on.
Sure.
So that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it works, dude. You invest in you, it works. Show yourself positive acts daily. Have these as habits. I won't miss my morning routine. You would literally
I'm
have
not
to
missing it either.
You would have to kill me for me not to do it.
Yeah.
Right? When you hear people say in this, in personal development and all this stuff, and we should be developing ourselves, trying to be better. Because if everybody did something like this to get to gratitude, to get to this vibrational state, the world would be different. You literally want to hug people.
Yeah.
You know, and if you would just do a little bit of this, it raises it completely changes your energy.
I definitely. I mean, I'm doing it.
Yeah,
So.
it's just got to be. You got to make some things non-negotiable, right, in your
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
Right, and that should be get into a place of gratitude, do a little journaling, go for a walk, take some deep breaths because we don't take deep breaths enough.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have a better day right there.
Yeah.
Hit your water, get decent sleep, because anxiety is the worst for sleep.
I know.
It's a perpetual hamster wheel you get in.
It's the worst.
Can't sleep, then maybe you have to take something, and then you're getting up, and then you become an insomniac, and all these things that I hear in my program, And
I know, man.
Oh, dude, I hear it.
I hate that
I hear
stuff.
it all, bro. And we end up fixing it
Yeah.
just by these habits that are investing in you. It's really incredible to watch, man. So,
All right, we're gonna go.
Yeah,
now.
we'll move on.
That was a good talk, though. Actually,
Thank you.
Very energetic. And
Steve
good.
Burton M3.com. Thank you so much. And please don't subscribe to my YouTube channel. No, I'm kidding. I want you to once I get one.
Okay.